Well, let's continue the conversation now and bring in the Congress of South African Trade Unions, which has added its voice to the growing calls for the establishment of an inquiry into graft and interference claims within the police. The Federation says allegations undermine confidence in the rule of law and its enforcement. Cosatu's parliamentary coordinator, Matthew Parks, joining us from Cape Town this evening. Mr. Parks, good evening to you. Thank you very much for your time. Let's start with a police minister in President Cyril Ramaphosa's cabinet is accused of having links to the criminal underworld. Can the president afford his usual consultations that possibly go on for some time without any clear direction?
Good evening. Thanks for having us, Polly. Look, it's quite worrying. These are serious allegations of criminality, collusion, made by a very senior provincial commissioner of the South African Police Service, not only against the Minister for Police, but also officials, senior leaders within the police service, senior officials within the judiciary and the correctional services too, allegations of corruption, of tender fraud, of hit squads and so forth. So quite serious allegations. So the president needs to find a way to manage this urgently, because society can't afford to have the most senior leadership of the police, judiciary, the correctional services, key organs of law enforcement to have such clouds hanging over their head. But having said that, we do support the president's appeal for calm, to give him some space physically to return to the country from the BRICS summit, to attend to the matters. I think for us, because we have to get the balance right, we've got to find a platform where Jerome Konazi and anybody else who's got evidence of allegations of criminality against any persons within the police, judiciary, correctional services, to present that evidence. We also need to give a chance for those persons who've been accused, including the Minister for Police, Senzo Mchunu, to also present their side of the story and to have their names cleared, or if they're guilty, to be held accountable. So it's a difficult thing, because we must find the right balance. We need to deal with people who might have committed crimes, but also we need to be fair to people who've been accused, to be afforded a chance to also present their side of the story, and if they're innocent, to indeed be cleared as well. So I think for us, the most sensible way to deal with it would be a judicial commission of inquiry led by a retired judge or appointed by the Constitutional Court. Those are modalities, because they will best be placed to allow people to come and testify, to give evidence, and also to give equally a chance for those who have been accused to also respond and to have their names cleared if they're innocent. So I think for us, that's the best way. I'm not sure that Parliament is well equipped in that regard. It's not a court of law. It doesn't have the legal judicial capacity. And I think equally it'd be difficult for the president also to deal with it, either way, because he himself also is not a judicial authority and so forth. But I think the point is this matter needs to be dealt with very urgently. No one can afford this kind of cloud remaining, whether it's police officers, whether it's a minister, whether it's cabinet or society, but it needs to be dealt with quickly.
Yeah. I don't want to keep you for long. I understand you have another interview. You're talking about a commission of inquiry, and people may be tired of commissions of inquiry. I'll come back to that a little later. Let's talk about the political killings task team, because there's another direct accusation from Konazi against Mchunu, and that is that this political killings task team was disbanded as a direct instruction from Minister Mchunu. If indeed this is traced back to Mchunu, how damaging will that be for him for getting involved in police operations?
So all of the allegations are deeply concerning, and especially that it comes from a senior officer of the police service. So they are quite concerning. The hit squad, the corruption, all of them are very concerning. And no, police minister could survive with that cloud. But I think also, to be fair to the minister, without speaking for him, he equally needs to be given a chance to present his side of the story, because there could be a logical explanation. You could have shifted this investigation from task team A to task team B. There could be a variety of explanations, but we don't know until we have a chance for Jerome Konazi to give his full side of the story, including evidence. Equally for the minister to also give his side of the story, present evidence to the counter, because there might be very well such explanations, but we're not going to know. And I think none of us is required to come to a final judge, either way, is a person who's best placed to deal with such issues. And we hear the frustration about endless commission of inquiry. Society is right to be frustrated. But in this instance, we need to really have a platform where society can feel confidence that whatever finding they come to, it is one which bears integrity. And equally, whatever recommendations they make for the way forward are ones which are grounded in law. I think for us, that is the best way for all concerned, whether it's the minister, whether it's the general, but most importantly for society at large. And also, I think for the ordinary members of the police service too, who now have a cloud hanging over the institution, yet most South African police service members are performing a good job. They're risking their lives, protecting society, and they themselves also want to be free of any such allegations facing the police as an institution.
All right, you've gone back to the inquiry, so let's deal with it. People will ask, what has the Marikana Commission of Inquiry produced in terms of definitive action? Is anyone sitting in jail? Yes, some people may have lost jobs, quite senior within the police, but where are they in terms of taking accountability? People may look back at the Arms Deal Commission of Inquiry. That basically never existed now, given what has happened and the clear whitewash that it was. So let's deal with that. Why should people of South Africa, again, sit with another judicial commission of inquiry that's not going to produce results?
So the difficulty is that you have to find some sort of way of clearing the air, no matter what you do. Whether you want a minister to remain or not to remain, whether you want a police general to remain or not to remain, we can't afford for these issues to be simply swept under the carpet. They are far too serious in that instance. And I think all parties want the issues to be resolved, to be cleared. So we need to find what is the best platform for that. Parliament itself is a political atmosphere, it's a political institution, it's not the best institution for that. But a judge has got the capacity to deal with evidence, to ask the right questions, to sift through allegations, and to look at what does the law say and all of that. And society is right, you're right, Pauline, society is right to be frustrated with commissions. But that doesn't mean that we don't continue to deal with the issues. And this is such a big issue, we can't afford not to deal with it. It would be something different if charges had been laid against a minister or against a general or against a deputy national police commissioner, whoever it might be. That would be something different because then the agency's got a standing resolution in place. You could act upon that. But right now, no one is being charged. Heavy allegations have been raised in public, and there is a need for a process that has integrity, that has got credibility among society, and also that protects the rights of everybody who's involved, provides a platform for issues to be dealt with. So unless there's a better alternative to it, I think right now the best option would be some sort of commission inquiry, and you can put clear timeframes. It can be focusing specifically on this, and it would also be a chance to actually show that government can deal with issues and to avoid repeating the mistakes of previous commissions of inquiry.
Yeah. Here's a question, and it's about people seeing villains and angels. People are quick to take sides, simply, is my input here. How should people look at the KZN Police Commissioner, General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, and the kind of guts that he has taken to address a public platform and make direct accusations against a sitting police minister? People see him as a hero for doing that. People see him as someone who has nothing to hide. How should society view this man?
Yeah. In an ideal scenario, we would not have come to this extent. We would not have had a commissioner of police holding a press conference making allegations. In an ideal scenario, charges would rather have been laid with the police, with the prosecuting authority, and so forth. Obviously, things are not working correctly, and hence the press conference is what happened. It's not ideal. But I think from our side, we have no reason to doubt the integrity or credibility of the Provincial Commissioner of Police. He's a well-respected career public servant, police officer who's done well. There are many different tasks given by the police to him over his career. But equally, we also must say we also have respect for the Minister for Police, who also has a reputation of being clean, being somebody who is ethically based and so forth. But I don't think we're well qualified right now to say on this instance, you are guilty or you're not guilty. These charges are true or not true. And hence we're saying probably for us, Because all we can see is what you see in the media, all we can see is what you saw in the PowerPoint by the general. It just say we need a credible institution, well-equipped experts in the rule of law, in judicial processes to handle this issue and to come with clear findings ultimately. Because anybody else, it can come down to subjective feelings, it can come down to personalities, etc. What we need right now is something grounded in law, and that can be done expeditiously for the interests of all concerned, but most importantly, for the confidence of society in our law enforcement institutions.
Final question, Mr. Parks, and I'm moving away now completely from the allegations that were made by General Mkhwanazi. I'm moving away from this whole subject matter, and I want to bring on board the tariffs. President Trump of the United States has made good on his promise, and South Africa is now settled with these tariffs. How do you think the companies, particularly the ones that employ some of your members, how do you think they are going to handle this? Do you foresee a situation where workers are going to become the immediate casualties?
It's quite worrying. If the 30% tariff hike does come into effect on the 1st of August for South African exports, it'll have a devastating impact upon those companies. We have thousands of workers on our farms, in our motor manufacturing sectors, our clothing factories, chemical plants, jewelry companies who export to the US, and none of them could afford to be competitive in the US market with a 30% tariff hike. It's just physically not possible. So we do hope, and we'll continue to work closely with our colleagues in the Department of Trade Industry, International Relations, and the Presidency to finalize the South African proposals around a new trade agreement with the US, which we think is mutually beneficial. But we need to have something done quite quickly, but we simply couldn't afford that 30% tariff hike. But also, whilst you try to resolve the trade agreement with the US, it's equally critical for South Africa to diversify its export markets to Europe, to Africa, to Asia, and so forth. We need to do that anyway because we have such high levels of unemployment, such low levels of economic growth. But we're also going to ask for urgent engagement at NEDLAC with the Department of Labor and the UIF to make sure that the UIF's TERS program can be really jacked up to make sure that any companies who experience distress in this period are able to seek relief from the UIF TERS. So number one, we must avoid any job losses. Tony, we can't afford a single worker to lose his job in this economy.
Yeah. Just as a quick throwaway before I let you go, Minister Parks Tau is the man in charge here, particularly when it comes to this situation. Do you think he's done a good enough job of almost pushing back? Because we're now sitting with a 30% increase.
Yeah. Look, if it was just South Africa, we could point fingers, but this is across the world. Yes, it also had similar letters with almost the exact same wording to many other countries, including Japan, Korea, Kazakhstan, and so forth. It's a political realignment within the United States based upon the domestic economic pressures and so forth. But I think for us, we do believe that Minister Tau, Minister Lamula, the presidency have been working diligently on this issue. We're going to continue to work with them. But obviously the final result is to make sure we have a new trade agreement in place, hopefully also to extend, to renew the African Growth and Opportunities Act as well, because that provides a much more comprehensive trade regime between Africa and America. But ultimately, we've got to make sure we get this done quickly because there's thousands of jobs in South African companies which are linked to trade with the US, and we simply just can't afford to lose any of them when we have a 43% unemployment rate.
Matthew Parks, thank you very much for your time, Cosatu's parliamentary coordinator.